¿Qué tal amigos? ¿Cómo están ustedes? Bienvenidos de vuelta a este canal de noticias. ¿Cómo la están pasando? Feliz semana para todos ustedes, señores, y que sea una semana próspera y que todo lo que se propongan para bien lo puedan cumplir al 100%. Señores, en esta oportunidad les traigo una serie de videos traducidos en español de un mensaje que quiere dar Donald Trump a todos ustedes. Yo sé que a ustedes les gusta este tipo de video, tiene que ver sobre políticas de fronteras abiertas, tiene que ver sobre las elecciones presidenciales del 2024 y mucho más. Pero antes de comenzar con este video, yo te invito a que me regales un gran like como forma de apoyo a este canal. Suscríbete, muy importante. Si eres nuevo en este canal, mi nombre es Juan Torres y me dedico a informarles a ustedes sobre noticias internacionales. Entonces, sin más que agregar, comencemos inmediatamente. Vamos a comenzar con este primer tema que dice Donald Trump. Están tratando de eliminar ilegalmente mi nombre de tu voto. Miren este video.
A fake trial is currently taking place to try and illegally remove my name from the ballot. I often say that 2024 will be the most important election in the history of our country. The reason for that and that statement is that our country is being destroyed by people who have no idea what they're doing, or even worse, they may very well have an idea. They may hate our country, and they may want to see it destroyed. But it may also be the last election we ever have. If this election doesn't work, if this election is rigged and stolen, if bad things happen, our country will not survive. If Crooked Joe and the Democrats get away with removing my name from the ballot, then there will never be a free election in America again. We will have become a dictatorship where your president is chosen for you. You will no longer have a vote, or certainly won't have a meaningful vote. And you could say, frankly, that that has already begun. This truly is our final chance to save America, and with the 2024 election now less than 1 year away, this is your chance to take a stand against tyrants that support the one and only movement that can save our country and make America great again. We must win in 2024. If we don't win, we will not have a country. If we do win, we will make America greater than it's ever been before. Thank you.
Además, Donald Trump dice, Washington DC se ha convertido en una trampa mortal sucia, plagada de crimen total en todos los lados. Miren esto.
Washington, D.C., our once beautiful capital, has become a dirty, crime-ridden death trap that must be taken over and properly run by the federal government. It is and will be part of my election platform. We will clean it, renovate it, rebuild it, and most importantly, we will make it safe. Right now, it is probably the most unsafe capital city anywhere in the world. With this in mind, there is no way I can get a fair trial in a Biden election interference indictment. This was a Biden indictment. Biden, my political opponent, indicted me because I challenged the election and other ridiculous reasons. With this in mind, there is no way I can get a fair trial on a Biden election interference indictment in Washington, D.C. Obviously, at the appropriate time, if this ridiculous case should be allowed to proceed forward, which is, according to legal scholars, very doubtful, I will be making a demand for a venue change. It's a very unfair witch hunt, but we are going to win, and we are going to make America great again. Thank you.
Donald Trump también dice, estas acusaciones políticas decepcionarían a nuestros padres fundadores de la patria. Miren esto.
These highly political Biden lawsuits and indictments shouldn't be allowed to start until after the election is over. Who would ever think a thing like this would be allowed to start? We actually have one judge that wants the lawsuit to start the day before Super Tuesday. These are corrupt people. Our founding fathers are looking down at Biden with scorn right now. They're looking down on Biden and this administration with disbelief. We're going to make America great again. We're going to put America first. And we're going to have a great country. It's going to be called the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Donald Trump también dice, desde que el New York Post fue mal en Trump, las cifras han caído tremendamente de audiencia de este medio de comunicación. Miren esto.
Since the New York Post went bad on Trump, and they have gone bad, their numbers have fallen tremendously. People aren't buying it. They don't want to read that. The New York Post has treated me great for almost a lifetime. And now, for whatever reason, and I guess it's radical left or the rhino stuff, they have gone really bad, and it's ridiculous. But the numbers are down. Their numbers of readers and everything else has gone down tremendously. Great people are tired of hearing fake news. The New York Post used to be so good, but not anymore. We have to get it back before it's too late. Because frankly, if they don't change, there will be no more New York Post. And that would be sad. Thank you.
Adicional, Donald Trump dice, me doy cuenta de lo insignificante que son las demandas comparadas con el horror de lo que está pasando con Israel y el Medio Oriente. Y tiene razón aquí. Letitia James, una de estas matonas fiscal general de Nueva York, que está buscando todo lo posible para encarcelar a Donald Trump, cuando en este momento hay cosas más importantes, hay cosas atroces que están sucediendo en el mundo para enfocarnos en este tipo de estupidez. Miren esto.
As I successfully fight these political opponent lawsuits, all created and started by crooked Joe Biden and his group of radical left thugs, I realize how insignificant they are compared to the horror of what is going on with Israel and the Middle East, and the thousands of people who have so needlessly died in a war that should have never started, and the millions that could very easily follow, all due to the highly incompetent Biden administration and their policies of weakness and appeasement and of being just plain stupid. And then you have Ukraine, likewise, would have never started if I were president, would have never started. You wouldn't have inflation. You'd have a great economy. All of these things were preventable. But now we have many hotspots all over the world, something that just 3 years ago, nothing like this existed. Our country was doing record business. We had no inflation, which is a killer in its own right. It's called a country destroyer. So let them keep suing me over bullshit in their hope of election interference, because that's the only way they think they can win. We're leading in the polls by massive numbers. And that's because our country has become disabled. We're a nation in decline. We are not going to let our country die. We will successfully fight it. We will make America great again, greater than ever before. Thank you.
Donald Trump también dice esto, el corrupto de Joe Biden y su ridícula política de fronteras abiertas. Miren esto.
With the millions and millions of people that crooked Joe Biden has allowed into the United States through his ridiculous open borders policy, mostly young men and large numbers of terrorists, the United States is more vulnerable from inside terror attacks than at any time in its history. Biden is allowing people from prisons and jails. He's allowing people from mental institutions and insane asylums. Silence of the Lambs. Hannibal Lecter, remember? Insane asylums. They're allowed to come into our country. We're like a dumping ground. And he's allowing terrorists to come in at numbers never seen before. He's got to be defeated in 2024. He's got to be defeated, or this country is never going to make it. Thank you very much.
Donald Trump también dice, las políticas fronterizas torcidas de Biden ha provocado cientos de miles de muertes de fentanilo, de personas que han muerto por fentanilo, debido a que inmigrantes extranjeros que están cruzando la frontera hacia Estados Unidos están trayendo este tipo de drogas. Miren esto.
Joe Biden is allowing massive quantities of deadly fentanyl to be smuggled across our wide open border, where it's killing hundreds of thousands of our fellow Americans each and every year. Biden's socialist border and economic policies are causing death, destruction, and despair in America on a scale comparable to a major war. In fact, most major wars don't lose the kind of numbers that we're losing. Hundreds of thousands of people a year are dying and families are being destroyed. Every one of us knows the story of a friend or loved one who had a son or daughter or other members of their family who made one mistake many with no idea what they were even taking, and the next thing they knew, they were tragically dead from a fentanyl overdose. There are many, many such incidents happening each and every day in our country. The cost to our families and our communities, our schools, and our country is beyond comprehension. So much American potential has been lost to this deadly plague. Crooked Joe Biden, the worst president, and by the way, the most incompetent president in the history of our country, seems to not care at all, but I do. Biden's open borders radicalism fuels this crisis. I will end this crisis, and together we will restore hope in America. I will send federal law enforcement to round up the gang members and street crews, charge them with crimes, and get them behind bars or get them out of our country. I will ask Congress to ensure that drug dealers, kingpins, and human traffickers receive the death penalty. The death penalty is going to stop drug dealing in America, just like it does in numerous other countries. If you don't do that, you're just playing games. But even beyond government policy and law enforcement, we need everyone to pitch in, and we need God's help. This is a challenge for our entire nation, a challenge like we've never had before. Hundreds of thousands of people dying from drugs every year, coming in from foreign countries, and we know how to stop it. Together, we must do everything in our power to support a revival of faith, community, and the American values that will allow us to defeat this horrific scourge once and for all. As your president, I will lead that movement. I'll be very proud to do it. We will put America first, and we will make America great again.
Donald Trump también dice, las encuestas me muestran que lidera la seguridad social Medicare, odiando a Ron DeSantis y todo lo que tiene que ver con el gobernador de Florida. Miren esto.
Polls show me leading Social Security, Medicare-hating Ron DeSanctimonious by 50 points and even more. He has single-handedly caused Florida to have the highest insurance costs in the entire nation. And it's not even close, and they're going up at a rapid rate. In fact, insurance is barely even obtainable. DeSantis is hovering at around 8% now in the national polls. We're leading him by so much. He's like a wounded bird falling to the ground. But we have to do something about insurance in Florida. Bird Brain, that's Nikki Haley, who said she would never run against President Trump. I will never, ever run against President Trump, one of the best presidents ever. Looks like she may actually catch Ron for a very distant second place. Remember, she said that, I will never run against President Trump, and then a couple of months later she said, I'm pleased to announce my candidacy. These politicians are really bad. Those in charge are desperately trying to cancel the remaining debates. The last one had the lowest television ratings in debate history. We should all focus on beating the worst and most incompetent president by far in U.S. history, crooked Joe Biden. We have to come together and beat crooked Joe Biden. Remember, he's the most incompetent and by far the worst president in the history of our nation.
Donald Trump habla sobre Daniel Cameron, candidato republicano para el estado de Kentucky, ha sido respaldado por Donald Trump. Miren esto.
Daniel Cameron is a young star who has done a great job as your Attorney General, always being fair but very, very tough. And the wonderful people of Kentucky know it. You've learned it, you've seen it, you've been watching it. He is strong, reliable, and loves your state and our nation. Daniel is a tremendous fighter on crime, lowering taxes, saving our Second Amendment, stopping inflation, and, of course, helping our great military and our vets. We love our vets. Daniel strongly supports law enforcement and is endorsed by the Kentucky Fraternal Order of Police, will not allow men to participate in women's sports, fully supports our teachers and getting our children caught up from the massive learning loss caused from Beshear's educational policies, which have been a disaster for Kentucky. He will eliminate Kentucky's income tax and will support the working men and women of Kentucky, just like I did for 4 great years. His opponent, current Governor Andy Beshear, has been a disaster for Kentucky. He endorsed crooked Joe Biden, which in itself is about as bad as it gets, whose economic policies are crushing your state, including inflation and energy, which are at an all-time high. Bashir is weak on crime and the Second Amendment. He's not doing the protection that it needs. They want to get rid of the Second Amendment. The Democrats are fighting hard to do that, and Bashir wants to help him. He also wants to raise your taxes and viciously shut down churches, small businesses, and schools, and you saw him do that very recently. 4 more years would be a disaster for Kentucky, so I have known and worked with Daniel Cameron for a long time, and he's good on every common sense policy there is. He's a common sense person. He will never let you down, and he has my complete and total endorsement.